Hey, this is your girl Audrey Wrights, aka Audrey Anna, and I am back with another episode of Life Advice. I know it took me a while. School is on my butt, it's been a lot, but I am pushing and doing well. So, your girl is still on the path of being a future clinical psychologist. So, stay tuned. I did recently just post a blog post, so I wanted to come back and to talk about that and highlight some points. And that blog post was essentially talking about how relationships are supposed to be easy and just highlighting and identifying what makes them difficult. So I want to spend some time talking about that today. And after, I'll give y'all my whole spiel, but whatever. So, essentially, when I wrote the blog post, my motivation was the fact that there are so many people who don't realize that relationships are essentially supposed to be easy. I know the narratives that we are constantly thrown are relationships are hard, they're challenging, they take all this work and all these different things. But as I grow and evolve and come to fully understand more about psychology, I know that a lot of the notions that we were taught and told over the ages are just simply untrue and unmerited. However, I'm not saying it's not true for the individuals who are saying those things, because for them, relationships may have been very difficult or hard or challenging or what have you, but is that what they're supposed to be? No, not necessarily. So I just wanted to definitely come and share that you can certainly have a relationship that is easy if that's what you choose, but there are things that you must have in place in order to be able to do so. Okay, so I think one of the points I made was essentially understanding what components contribute to unsuccessful or hard, quote unquote, hard relationships. Essentially, what makes a relationship hard is if you have two people or even one broken person trying to be in a relationship with another. Essentially, one broken person at the very least cannot contribute to an easy, healthy relationship. Why? Because solely that person is broken. There is a certain level of self-actualization, self-accountability, self-love, all of these things that should be in place in order to have a healthy, successful relationship, right? So I think if we shift our perspective and shift the narrative of what we consider hard, or just try to gain a better understanding of what contributes to a hard relationship, then we'll realize that it's merely the person we are at the time we enter a relationship, and how immature we are, or how little we've grown. Okay, all of those factors contribute to whether a relationship will be healthy, easy, and successful. Okay, so understanding that, I think one of the first points I made, and I'm going solely based off memory at this point, so if I forget something, it might take me a second, just give me a minute. But one of the first points I believe I made in my blog post was that we have to understand the difference between compassion and conflict, or I'm sorry, it wasn't compassion, it was conflict and what is it when you, I'm having a moment. Anyway, I'll just keep going, it'll come to me. But anyway, in a relationship, you have to have a fundamental understanding of what compromise, that's what it was, compromise and compassion, I think. Don't hold me to that, but again, I'm going solely based on memory. So understanding what compassion is and what it takes to be able to compromise in those situations. One, compassion is understanding that your partner is not you. Your partner may not be in the same exact growth place. Your partner may not be on the same level of on or in the same level of maturity that you're in. So having compassion for that, empathy, and understanding that we may not be on the same page as far as life lessons are concerned, but I am willing to hear you, understand you, love you, and commit to still sticking this thing out, right? And that's what the compassion looks like. As with the understanding of compromise, I think a lot of times people don't really truly get the gist of what compromise is. I think sometimes we associate compromise with submission, and submission and compromise are definitely not the same thing. But so I can keep this video as short as possible, I just want to communicate that when you are genuinely compromising, you're coming to a mutual concession. You are basically saying, yes, I agree to disagree, or yes, I agree at this point to give you what you want, and we agree at this point for me to have what I want. That is essentially what compromise looks like in a healthy relationship. It's not a full out argument. It's not a drag down. It's not a I'm gonna hit below the belt until I get what I want. That's completely not it. Okay. It's essentially two people being mature enough to say we're not gonna agree, or we don't agree on certain aspects, but I love you enough not to argue with you about it. So here's what we're gonna do. Okay. We're going to agree for me to be satisfied in this situation and you to be satisfied in this situation. And essentially that's it. Or we just agree to disagree and table the conversation and not return to it. Okay. So that's essentially what compromise looks like. I also mentioned in my blog post that, healthy relationships embody a choice to love. Essentially, it fundamentally, that's a very simple component. When you commit and choose to loving someone, you're committing and choosing to support that person, to be there for them, to be compassionate, to be understanding, to get all these things, to not judge, to accept and be accountable even for your own self and your actions, right? I think a lot of times, first let me say, I think what can be misconstrued by what I'm saying is that somebody is going to try and argue that, two different people can't get along or be in a relationship. That's not necessarily true, because opposites attract. So you can certainly have successful relationships with two individuals who are not exactly alike. But it's a maturity thing. It's understanding that yes, we don't have these things in common, or these elements we don't necessarily see eye to eye on, but it's remembering that you chose to love this person, and you chose to support them and be there for them and commit to loving them regardless. So that choice in itself is always and will always be your own. And so I think when people get in unsuccessful or unhealthy relationships, we tend to divert to that person did this or this person did that, when essentially you can also look at it from a perspective of, I chose to stop loving this person for this reason. I'm gonna sit there for a second. Because essentially that's what you did. Whatever the situation was, whatever the circumstances or scenario, you chose to say, I'm no longer going to love this person anymore, or I'm no longer going to commit to this person anymore. I'm not going to give a part of me because of whatever reason. So you chose to disconnect. You chose to separate yourself from that individual. And so instead of placing blame on the other person by saying you did this and so I did this, just be accountable for the fact that you chose to stop. You chose to disconnect, or you chose to separate yourself emotionally, or whatever the case may be, which caused a rift or caused issues or caused hard or challenges in your relationship or situation. Okay. So, those things also are components I think that we need to understand and be aware of, and just kind of shift our perspective on, in order to try to actively be engaged in contributing to healthy relationships. Okay. I'll be honest with you, I don't remember the last point I made, but I will say this. um, again, relationships are not necessarily designed, or not designed to be hard. It's okay to be in a relationship with someone where it's easy and you get along and everything flows and there's no drama. Essentially, what you have is two people at that point who have decided their past has messed them up enough to where they're committed to doing everything successfully moving forward, or giving 100% moving forward. And typically what you get from two individuals in that situation is a very easygoing relationship. It is possible. It happens. It's real. I know people who experience it. You do not have to essentially go through all the challenges and growing pains of the relationship struggles that align with the notions that we've been taught all of our lives, like relationships are hard, they're challenging, they're all these negative things. Again, it's up to us to kind of shape the perspective of what we understand in that regard. So I think ultimately, I hope that, I think that's about all. I'm gonna try to wrap up unless the last sentiment comes to me. But I'm sure if it was anything, it was essentially acceptance, because that's pretty much what I talk about all the time. So I'll pause on the closure and just speak about that for a second. But acceptance, you guys, if you follow me and you're reading my blog on a regular basis, it's something that I'm always pushing, always encouraging, and something that I'm always speaking about, because I feel like acceptance is such an underrated thing, or an unknown thing, or an unrealized thing, and it has to be an active effort 100% of the time. So without acceptance, especially in a relationship, you're going to encounter so many challenges. Essentially, if you do not accept your partner, why are you with them? If you want to nitpick about every single little thing that they do, why are you with them? That's my question for you. If you want to nag or want them to be what you want them to be, what is it that you saw in them that made you want to pursue a relationship with somebody who you felt like was insignificant to you, or uncomparable to you, or just not on the same wavelength? What about you made you attract or be attracted to someone in that situation? And I think those are the hard questions that we tend not to ask ourselves. Like, either I feel like we're at two extremes. So we either find somebody who's going to do what we say, and we want to be controlling and tell them what to do, and if they don't align with that, it's not going to work out. And there's a lot of friction because we're trying to basically change someone and make them be something that we think we want until they actually turn it, and that probably doesn't work out anyway. Or you're essentially like condescending. You're never going to be what I need, or any of these things. So just again, in those scenarios, ask yourself, like, what is it about you that attracts you to somebody who you outwardly feel will not meet your standards? Why would you want to talk to somebody who doesn't meet your standards? Why would you waste 5 years with somebody who you have to talk about or be condescending to, or make feel insignificant or make insecure. Like, what is it about you that would do those things to someone else? And that's the self reflection, that's the self actualization, that's the self accountability checks that need to be in place before we can actually endure healthy, easy relationships. So, with that being said, I'm at my 15-minute mark, which y'all know I try not to go over, but I think I've dropped some good gems today. I hope that everyone is able to understand that relationships can be easy. Relationships are designed to be easy. It's a matter of understanding where the two people are in when they initiate that relationship. That's what determines the caliber of what your experience will be like in said relationship. So with that being said, again, thank you guys for coming to chill on my couch with me. This is my random one-off show. Hopefully I can do more next week. But with school, it has been a bit of a challenge. So I definitely wanted to just come and support you guys and share this information because I recently submitted a blog, or I recently posted, a blog post about this. So be sure to head over to audreywrites.com, check out the latest blog, share, comment, and even comment on this video. Let me know your thoughts. Is this helping? Is it not helping? Do you want me to change the format? Is there something in particular you want to hear? Of course, you know, this information is designed to be general. If you have any specific questions you want to ask me, please feel free to just shoot me an email. That's audreywritesinfo@gmail.com, or you can just use the contact page on my website. So again, this is a general, real easygoing, laid back YouTube channel. It's my way of sharing my experiences and my knowledge coupled with my psychology education, just so I can help expand the knowing and understanding of how psychology plays and manifests in our everyday life. Um, Also, this is not meant to be any formal counseling or therapy. Although I am a student, a doctoral student currently for clinical psychology, this is not what this is meant to be. So I am not a licensed therapist at this point. So again, this is not any legal advice. This is merely me sharing my experiences, my knowledge, what I've gained, what I've come to understand with those who want to take an active role in their self-growth, development, and evolution. So that being said, again, thank you guys for checking out this post, and be sure to head over to audreywrites.com and keep up with the latest blog posts. I typically do twice a month. And so I'm sure these video blogs will transition on life advice to twice a month. So just kind of get comfortable with that. But otherwise, thank you guys again, and I definitely hope to see you in the next video.